Alrighty, so this presentation is over Drake Head Start and other community projects. This presentation will be brought to you by Maribel Lita, Cindy Lemke, Julia Klein, Jordan Holtz, and Kessa Hindeman. And we'll start off with some history and the mission.
Okay, I'm going to discuss about the history and the mission. History of the Head Start was founded by President Lyndon B. Johnson, which is in 1965, children from birth to age 5. Their mission is to help family through the healthcare, education, nutrition, and also social services. This is also designed to promote the school readiness for children ages from birth to 5 from the low-income family by enhancing their cognition and social and emotional competence. I'm just gonna read also the one that I wrote for my experience. I wrote that the routine that I experienced serving in Asward Head Start in children was like in 15 hours of experience, I learned a lot that different culture and children are born with. And also I remember that there's a lot of, when I was young, elders were not allowed to talk. I mean, children are not allowed to talk when like elders are talking, but in those hours that I learned that here are different. So children will even you say that you should not be talking while you're eating, they still doing it. So serving in Oxford, really, I seen that some children are well disciplined, also some children are not, and some have an anger issue which is needed attention. But some of it is just because they're also just a child, but they demonstrate in their age, they usually just show the tantrums, which is a normal for them, and usually they just gone through it. What else? I guess I gave you the next one for Cindy.
Is one of the others discussing social issues?
Yeah, I can do that. So for the social issues, Drake Head Start program works to eliminate some of the social issues that are seen within the community. One of these common social issues seen in pretty much any community is poverty, and children who grow up in this environment may find it hard to connect with and be at the same level as some of their more fortunate classmates. According to the Office of Head Start, their main goal is to help break the cycle of poverty, providing preschool children of low-income families with a comprehensive program to meet their emotional, social, health, nutritional, and psychological needs. And unfortunately, those living in poverty do not always have the same resources as their more financially stable counterparts, and this can often be seen in a child's readiness for school. Children who grow up in poverty may have parents that are not as highly educated, or they may have parents that are working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, and their time is spent working and less time is spent teaching their children. And when you look at it, poverty is not the child's fault, and the Head Start program aims to end this poverty gap by starting at-risk students on an early learning path. And according to research that has been done, early education has been deemed impactful for students who are living in poverty and have learning disadvantages. This system of learning can help ensure that these students are able to graduate and, if they would like, move on to college. But the goal is that they will be able to obtain good jobs and help break their cycle of poverty, because getting out of poverty is difficult and may seem impossible. But by getting these children on this track at a young age, hopefully this will help prepare them by the time they graduate and become adults to succeed. And so by completing my part of the service learning project, I learned that service leadership does not have to be something huge. Serving one's community can be as simple as a few hours of volunteer work, helping a neighbor, or sharing the resources that I find helpful with my community. And these small acts make a huge impact for the community and can help so many people.
So now I would like to discuss the nature of the projects that we did. Just in general, starting with the semester doing service learning project at Drake Head Start. We worked with a population of 3 to 5 year olds. Most of them were 4 to 5 year old age range. At my site, there was 1 3-year-old little guy. We were at locations throughout. We were at Ames, Des Moines, and West Des Moines. And time that we were at the classroom was 8:30 or 8:45 in the morning until 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon, depending on location. And our job was to work alongside the teacher, or if there was a teacher's aide, we worked with the teacher's aide to assist with the day activities. There were different ways that we were able to be involved, including mealtime partner. They have breakfast, lunch, and snack there every day. Prior to eating, every time that they eat, they wash their hands before eating. And after breakfast every day, they brush their teeth. There's even a song that they would play, and they would, it's kind of hard not to get into it. You're like doing the toothbrushing song, and I'm like, I wish I had my toothbrush right now too. They eat family style, which gives them an opportunity to work on self-help skills, pouring, serving themselves. I had to there were times that I would want to step in and help, and the teacher would remind me, no, they're independent. They know how to do it all by themselves, and they use manners and please and thank you and pass the food around the table. And every day that I was there, they tried a new food. They would do a song with that too, and they would try the new food all at the same time. And as volunteers, we were able to encourage self-help skills, eating nutritious, well-balanced meals, and acting as a positive role model, modeling positive behaviors. Another way that we were volunteers as reading partners. The way that we did this was by kind of taking the opportunity whenever the opportunity would arise. They did have reading by the teacher throughout the day, but we also would take an opportunity whenever possible to read one-to-one or in small groups, and that allowed us to engage with the students on a more personal basis. There's a rocking chair in the room, but I learned pretty quickly that if I sat in the rocking chair with one child and started reading a book, that other children were just kind of drawn in. So a lot of times I would just sit there on the carpet and just allow them to kind of gather around. The goal for us as volunteers was to enhance language and vocabulary skills. There were a few of us experienced in different locations a child that had mutism, and thinking this is a pretty uncommon thing, but two of us experienced that. So trying to open the door for those opportunities and increase the ability for children to express themselves, encourage their creativity. So that was another way. And then playground helper was not something that I don't think any of us participated due to winter weather, but whenever that is, the playground is open for better weather, we're able to go out there and assist with playground activities. We functioned as playtime partners. They have center time, or they call it centers. And they have so many activities for the kids to be involved in the room, wherever they're interested in, such as blocks, art, puzzles, library, dramatic play, magnetiles, music and movement, discovery, technology. There was a really large, kind of like an iPad table that kids were able to use. Cooking, And like I mentioned just a little bit ago, the outdoor play when weather conditions allow. The classroom that I was in also had worms that the children were able to kind of dig around and find them. They were various sizes. Some of them were little teeny tiny babies, and some of them were bigger. And they got to learn about kind of worm life and their eating habits. And there was a bucket of rocks that they were able to use tactile stimulation to feel and touch different rocks of different textures and colors and shapes. Our job as volunteer was to help them be problem solvers, develop socialization and communication skills, and engage in friendly play with their classmates. I felt personally that some of the ways that we were involved in servant leadership this semester with this service or with this project was awareness, kind of with things, how they changed in mid-March. We were aware of what was going on around us and where there's a need for our skill set. Listening for understanding. This was definitely evident in the classroom, but also as we have been experiencing our COVID-19 pandemic situation, even just neighbors walking by, I'm getting to know them better from at least 6 feet away and the struggles they're going through right now than I ever knew before. We're experiencing empathy as we are empathizing with healthcare providers that are out there doing the work that we are looking to do in our futures, and we're so close, but we're not able to be actively involved just yet. And then there's healing, and it's not just for us or for others, it's healing for us too, to be able to serve the children at Drake Head Start, and then in other projects that we have done in our groups. I learned that by using the principles of servant leadership during this servant leadership project, that I can also feel good about the work that I'm doing. I realized that seeing positive outcomes from the service that I was doing made my heart feel good, especially on my drive home at the end of the day. I just would have like a good vibe about the things that I did that day, and just remember some of the silly things and the dancing that I did that I would never do before in public. And I was motivated to find ways that I can give back to my community.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the project, how it went, and our goals that we made for this project. Our goals, we came up with 3 goals to meet during this project. One was to identify children's from the ages of 3 to 5, their cognitive, physical, and socio-emotional functions. Our second was to identify how to interact with children who are from a different socioeconomic background, and to help lay a foundation for the children to learn and grow by being a positive role model. Lastly, our other goal was to model positive behavior for children to learn from regarding reading, being a friend on the playground, and to answer any questions the children might have to the best of our abilities. We were able to meet our goals for this project in many ways. The biggest way that we achieved our goals was by helping the children with their activities. We used many of the principles of the servant leader to achieve our goals. We had to be a positive role model by helping guide the children and helping them learn by example. Listening was a huge factor in helping children we worked with feel understood, and was a way to lead by example. We had to adjust with how we worked with each of the children because each of them are different, and we had to use awareness to identify their different needs and functions. Many of the children we worked with came from various socioeconomic backgrounds, and we had to learn how they learned. Our project focused heavily on commitment to growth and community as well. We were able to lead by example and be positive role models for the children we worked with so that they can start making a foundation to grow upon, and the program itself introduces the idea of community to these children. One person that we drew inspiration from previous learning this semester was Jean Veneer. He stressed the importance of showing love to those who are put aside by society, and many of these children in this program are affected by poverty and are not always shown the kindness that they deserve. We were able to apply his ideals of spreading love and kindness during our time with the children in Head Start. So, as Cindy mentioned, we were put into different locations for Head Start. We worked in Ames, Des Moines, and West Des Moines. This gave us the opportunity to see how this program can affect children and families in different areas. The main issue that each of us observed was some type of language barrier, ranging anywhere from speaking Spanish to not even speaking at all. The Ames location was very fortunate in regards to the situation because the teacher's assistant is fluent in Spanish. This really helped the kids feel understood, and it helped avoid any miscommunication that could occur. We also observed some behavioral issues among the children, as well as the issue of there being few caretakers. The Head Start program relies heavily on volunteers when there is no extra help. Then the large groups of children are being taken care of by just the teacher, and if there is an assistant, the teacher's assistant. The Des Moines location also has a higher poverty rate than the Ames location, so the Ames location ended up dealing more so with language barrier and less so of poverty. The Head Start facilities could be compared to the work of Catherine McCauley in helping homeless women to earn an education. Head Start is the start of an education for these children who may not otherwise have the opportunity to get an education. It also helps to lower the gap between children that is caused by their individual situations, such as poverty. It acts as a safe haven for these children to have fun, learn, make friends, and make new memories. Each location has some degree of these challenges, but we were able to navigate and learn from the teachers we were working with. Next, I'd like to briefly talk about some of the activities that we got to experience. The teachers, whether they were new to the job or very experienced, always found ways to entertain and stimulate the children throughout the day. Some of the activities we were able to take part in included reading, playtime, games, playground time, and crafts. The teachers do their best to find new and exciting activities to throw into their routine, which is constantly changing. This helps the children stay interested. The Ames teacher decided that the children could have the opportunity to paint during their activity time, and in order to keep things interesting, she gave them a different type of canvas, which was a paper plate. This helped the children stay entertained and made them think creatively as well. We were able to act as a second teacher or helper by helping prepare meals, participate in their activity time, play with the children on the playground, and to be there to guide the kids if they needed help or had questions. For their mealtime, one of the first things the kids do upon arriving is wash their hands. So they are constantly practicing good hygiene, washing their hands, brushing their teeth. Once all their hands are clean, they have breakfast time. The kids are able to practice good manners and patience during their meals because they are served family style. Later in the day, they will do the same routine for lunch. And the teacher is monitoring meals, helping them achieve their independence, but also being there to help if they need it. And to briefly describe some of the projects we had during quarantine, as servant leaders, we get the opportunity to help people face to face, but in our current situation with the COVID-19 virus, we had to find other ways to help those around us. During this time, it is important to continue to practice the principle of healing. In this time of need, we have worked to help those around us to help ease their burden. And one thing that I learned was that love and kindness goes a long way, no matter who you're helping, whether it's a child or you're just helping an adult. If you're able to show them love and kindness, then it can potentially change their lives.
I just briefly wanted to show, I made masks, about 50 masks for adults. I don't know if you can see it very well here. This is a final mask that I made out of BDU material. There's a shortage of material right now for making masks. And I spent hours and hours cutting this material for my neighbor who has a sewing machine. She's in the military and is a single mother of 3 children and stays up half the night working on this. And I've taken a lot of hours away from her work. This is a little baby mask. This is a mask for my 2-year-old that she made. It's absolutely adorable. I just wanted to show that is something I worked on during quarantine.
So during quarantine, there have been a couple of things that I've been able to do. I also got to help make some masks for the fire department up in Omaha, where my dad works. I was able to help collect material, help cut out material, and help sew. I've also been able to help get and deliver groceries to some of the elderly population in my hometown that currently should not be going out and need to stay self-isolated. The other project that I did was I have been helping my siblings adjust to online learning systems by helping them with their homework and projects that their teachers have been sending out for them to do during this uncertain time. And they tend to have a lot of questions. And unfortunately, the teachers are a little overwhelmed and they don't get answers as quickly as they would like. So it's nice for them to have someone that they can try to get answers from.
For my service learning hours, I was actually unable to start my time at the Head Start program before everything started closing with the COVID-19 outbreak. So this led me to start to look at ways to help my community from home or from a reasonable distance. And one thing I did was I worked with my 6-year-old son to create some lesson plans and learning activities for children around the kindergarten age. We live in a more rural community in southern Iowa, and his school actually didn't start any online lesson plans until just this last week. So from spring break until last week, he was home without any guidance from his teachers. So I, and as well as all the other kids his age, were experiencing this. So I took some of those lesson plans and the activities that I created and did my best to make them easy to understand from an outside point. And I posted these to my community's Facebook group for any other parents who wish to use them. And I did receive some feedback that they're very appreciative for this because the kids were kind of starting to get stir crazy without any kind of guidance at home. So other than that, I was also able to get out and do some errands for community members who were unable or should not have gone out. And then one thing, my family also reached out on Facebook around Easter time for families and asked if anyone was still in need of supplies for Easter baskets for their kids. So we put some of those together and delivered those to those who responded. And this wasn't something that was necessary or considered essential, but I felt that in a time like this, kind of boosting morale can be extremely important for these kids who are kind of confused about what's going on outside right now.
And lastly, we came up with a couple directions for future work. One option that we thought about was doing a fundraiser. So this would help raise funds for resources for other projects that Head Start would be able to do. We essentially could have children from the community come out and do some fun projects when the time allows that we can all be together again. And we would essentially supply the crafts and activities, and then we would donate all the proceeds back to Head Start. Another option that we came up with was making felt puppets on a felt board. When I was in kindergarten, the now Ames public librarian was my public librarian, and she would always read stories with felt puppets. And we thought that was just the coolest thing since sliced bread. And I feel that 3 and 4-year-olds would absolutely love it because it gets their imagination running and they're able to picture what's happening with the story because there's interacting puppets. And also we could have the kids make their own felt puppets for their own story that they tell their friends. And they would get more engaged in the story itself because they help make it. Another area that we would like to see or help future projects with is more stations with creations, like painting with acrylic paint or watercolors, shaving cream paintings, paper bag puppets as well. We could also record ourselves reading for the kids, especially during the time of COVID, where they can't be in school and maybe parents don't like reading. So the kids would actually have someone else to read to them. We could also do some science projects for the kids and provide those resources as well. A couple examples for the science projects would be to make a rainbow. You just color on paper towel and then dip the ends into water and it'll just grow there. They could create Play-Doh from cornstarch, conditioner, and food coloring. They could also make foam paint with shaving cream, Elmer's glue, and food coloring as well. And my personal favorite, Shrinky Dinks from Number 6 Plastic, which is like the to-go containers that you would see in the lunch area. Permanent markers, parchment paper, and an oven. And I do believe the Ames location had an oven. If not, I'm sure the kitchen would let us borrow theirs. The truly happy person is creative and free, according to Jean Vanier. The kids are truly happy when they're at school, and you can tell that they enjoy doing everything that they get to do. I think that if the kids had their own creations, they would take more pride in it and therefore be more excited about the end process, and it would keep their attention better. Throughout this whole service learning project, I learned that kids don't care who you are or what you do as long as you're happy and you're nice to them, and they will reciprocate that feeling towards you. And basically, we all just need to be nice to each other. We all can learn from each other. Nobody has to do anything extraneous to be a servant leader. Just sitting with kids and helping them put puzzles together makes their day. So I feel like the simple things are what matter most.
Okay, so to wrap up this presentation, the Head Start gave us an opportunity to learn about other situations and allowed us to apply our knowledge from this course to help make an impact on the children that we worked with. We were able to use the servant leadership principles and learn how to apply them in specific situations. We were able to physically see how we were helping children, and it made us feel motivated to find other ways to serve our community. The current situation with the virus also showed us how servant leaders persevere in times of need. We learned that our actions do not need to be large and grand to make an impact in someone's life or within our community. In the end, the biggest thing that we learned is that spreading love and kindness can have the biggest effect on those around us.